What is up, everybody? Is Ronin, and today I'm coming at you with I have two more Halloween videos left, so I'm gonna be doing two more spooky decks, and this time we're doing Skull Servants, and yeah, this isn't the most complex deck, so I'm just gonna go into the deck profile because it's easier to see it played than anything else. So Skull Servants, they used to be this guy. He was like an original monster. He was just a level 1 boy who was here. He was a Skull Servant. And yeah, he doesn't do anything outside of B level 1 and Dark Attribute and a zombie. Much later down the line, I don't actually know when this archetype was released, but a deck got built around him, starting with King of the Skull Servants. So, King of the Skull Servants, its ability says that its original attack is 1,000 times the amount of King of the Skull Servants or Skull Servants that are in your graveyard. And if it is destroyed, you can banish one other King of the Skull Servants or Skull Servant from the grave to special it back. So yeah, the basic premise of the deck is to load up your graveyard with as many of the Skull Servant archetype monsters as possible, make him big, and then just punch your enemies in the face. He is the Skeleman with the plan. And in order to help you get to him, he has a few buddies. So we'll start with the biggest consistency booster for the deck, Right Prince. So Right Prince, when it's sent to the graveyard, lets you send a Skull Servant and a Lady in White, from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and then you can banish it and two other Skull Servants to special summon a King of the Skull Servants from your deck or hand, I believe. Yeah, no, from your deck. So now here we can get into the unique effect of all of the archetypal Skull Servant monsters. All of them count as Skull Servant while in the graveyard. So that means when you send White Prince to the graveyard, then you send Lady in White as well as the Skull Servant, you'll have technically 3 Skull Servants. So you send him, banish him, and the 2 you sent, you get a King of the Skull Servants from your deck. However, they are banished, but there are a few ways to get around that. The first of those ways is obviously burial from a different dimension. Just target up to 3 banished monsters and return them to the graveyard. This also gives you some nice ability to play through stopping of your White Prince's abilities. So pretty nice stuff. Also adds a lot of utility to something like Foolish Burial. Just send a White Prince and then get 2 more sins as well. Or Unizombie, so rather than just going for the straight zombie combo, you could summon it, send a White Prince, send 2 more, and be good. Now, the other archetype way, though, is White Mare. So White Mare has the Skull Servant effect of being treated as Skull Servant in the grave, and it lets you discard it in order to activate one of 2 effects. The first lets you select a removed from play Skull Servant or White Mare to return to the grave, and the second lets you select a removed from play Lady of White or King of the Skull Servants and special summon it. So this is an extremely good recovery play, especially once you know what Lady in White does. So Lady in White, the only level 3 in the archetype, well, second of the 2 level 3s in the archetype, has 0 attack and 2200 defense, and while face up, level 3 or lower zombie monsters that are on the field, except Lady in White, cannot be destroyed by battle, and are unaffected by spell and trap effects. And it also becomes Skull Servant in the grave. So generally, a very cool play you can do is get a White Prince to the grave, banish them to summon a Skull Servant from your deck. Then you discard the White Mare in order to summon the banished Lady in White back to your field, and you have a protected Skull Servant. Depending on how you got White Prince to the graveyard, maybe you sent it for a Link Revo, got it out the Foolish, send it from 1 for 1, I guess. You can also have additional board presence, usually ending in a Link Revo, to have a little bit more battle protection. Now we have the other big consistency booster of the deck, White Princess. When it is normal or special, you can send a White Prince from your deck to the grave, and once returned on either player's turn, you can send it from your hand or field to the grave. And all monsters currently on the field lose attack and defense equal to their own level/rank times 300 till the end of this turn. So, as you know, our win con is a level 1, so we don't get hit by that very hard at all. Our opponents, though, will get hit by that. Now, admittedly, Link summoning did kind of limit this usefulness, but it's another Skull Servant in the grave, so it's an easy way to get to a 4K beater or a couple 4K beaters in your first turn. Now for the rest of our cards, we have Skull Servant, as I went over, because, well, we need Skull Servants in the deck. Mizuki for that revival action. You banish it in order to revive a zombie. The fact that we have Barrel from the different dimension means we can potentially use it multiple times in one turn off of one copy, so that's pretty sick. Cutpole Shiranui Solitaire, just to possibly get to our Unizombie faster. I'm thinking I could probably drop down to 2 Allure of Darkness in order for it to have another Solitaire, but that is a experimental thing, I guess. Now for our spell and trap cards, we have Allure of Darkness for draw power, plus if you can banish a lady in white and then have a white mare in hand, that's a free monster effectively. 1 for 1 because all of our good monsters are level 1s, and we have a lot of monsters that want to be in the graveyard anyhow. Dark Hole because this is a beatdown deck. Board wiping is very valuable. We already went over the usefulness of Foolish Burial. Called by the Grave because stopping hand traps is nice, especially when with a deck like this that requires so much searching. And Burial from a different dimension is just a huge consistency booster for White Prince. Yeah, so that's the main deck. We will go over the extra deck real fast, everything that is useful, though most of these are just sort of filler space. So first we have Cyframe Lord Omega and Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. So both of these are level 8 synchros that we can make if we want to do just a basic Shiranui Unizombie engine play. Omega lets you hit something from the hand as well as returning banish cards from your banish zone to the graveyard during the standby phase, so that has the potential to make even bigger Skull Servants as well as reuse of the White Prince. And Scarlight is just a nice recovery board wipe. Once per turn, it can destroy every monster on the field that is not itself, that has less than or equal to attack than itself. So yeah, it's a great recovery card. We can make it fairly easily, and it's a good way to just go in for some damage. We have 2 Utopias because we can make rank 4s with the Unizombie Shiranui play. So it's a way to get over big monsters or negate attacks. Baby Turagan. Uh, we can hardly ever make this guy, but if you do, he's actually pretty cool. He requires free level 1 monsters, and during main phase 1, you can detach a material from it in order to allow a level 1 monster to attack directly, which is our King of the Skull Servants. Then we also have the Disdainful Bird-of-Paradise, another rank 1, requires 2 level 1s. It is towers, is unaffected by other cards' effects, and once per turn, as a quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from it in order to make it unkillable by battle, and you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. So it's just a decent stall tactic, pretty much, because there's no way your opponent's gonna be able to get over it in 1, so it's pretty sick. We also have Vampire Sucker, the zombie link that requires 2 zombies. If you attribute summon a monster, you can tribute your opponent's zombies. We don't have tribute summons, so that's not relevant. The relevant effect about it is that whenever a zombie is special summoned from the grave, you get to draw 1 card. We do have a little bit of graveyard setup here. Let's put the Mizuki, and this is a good zombie link too we can go into if we ever need draws. So yeah, it's pretty sick. We have free Wee Witch Apprentice, just requires 2 dark monsters, so our main boy is a dark monster. And, you know, he likes having big attack points, so I don't think this one requires much explanation. And now for the extra deck monster we actually use, Link Karibo. Requires 1 level 1 monster, and when opponent's monster declares an attack, you can tribute it to 0 that monster's attack. This is cool because it gives us another way to send White Prince without losing any resources, as well as potentially just getting big beaters and a little extra protection for our King of the Skull Servant. So, yeah, Link Rebo, a very good boy in this deck. Now for the side deck, real fast, we have 3 of our Kaiju, Radiant, Dark Attribute to make advantage of the Allure of Darkness. Free Twin Twister for spell trap removal. honestly feel like I can take out Lure of Darkness in place of the Twin Twisters, just because this deck is surprisingly consistent on its own, and the ability to go ahead and just set the graveyard while clearing spell traps is nice, but I am still very much on the fence on it. Call of the Mummy is a interesting choice, and there's definitely builds you can do with it. It sort of helps to mitigate the problem with the deck, which is sort of its ability to, or should I say, its inability to swarm. It's just it's very slow to get started. It usually ends with like one big King of the Skull Servant, so it's nice to be able to have multiple monsters on board. Free infinite impermanence because this is a going second deck. Monster effect heavy matchups are pretty common, so it's good to have this as an option, though Effect Veiler is almost as good. This one's just a little better because it could be used during either player's turn. And then we have Red Reboot for those trap heavy matchups because this deck loses to those matchups hard. But yeah, so the basic play, like I mentioned, is just to get to King of the Skull Servants and swing for big damage. It's not a very complex strategy. It is not hard to understand, and if I'm being frank, there are very few interesting ways to get there, but if you can pull off an actual win with this deck, it is the most fun thing. But yeah. All that being said, if you're new here, we're just going to go over a couple replays. I'm going to show you the deck doing well, the deck not doing well, strengths and weaknesses, basic combos and such. And yeah, all that being said, I'll see you guys in the first replay. All right, everyone. On the first game of Player, we are Max Spook because we're skeletons, and there were a lot of replays, but this was the only one I actually was able to get a win in, and it just shows like this is basically the perfect hand. The only thing that could be better is if this Allure of Darkness was a Cold by the Grave. But this is basically full Skull Servant combo. And we were playing against Dark Magician, and we're even going second, which is what you want to do with this deck. This deck's all about attacking for big damage, so go second anytime you can. But yeah, so our opponent will be starting. Gonna activate the Spellbook of Knowledge, dropping the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy for the draw 2, summoning the Magician's Rod to get a search, adding the circle, activates the circle to add the Eternal Soul. However, did not set the Eternal Soul because, yeah. Well, actually, yeah, no, he couldn't have actually used the Magician Navigation because he has to have one in hand. So yeah, our opponent, unfortunate opening. If he had opened up with a Dark Magician, then this actually would have been some very big trouble. But fortunately for us, he did not, so we were able to make our plays. So it's our turn. We draw the White Princess, which is pretty good, so we activate the Allure of Darkness, banish the Lady in White because we already had the White Mare in hand, so we know we will be able to get it back. It was a little risky. I didn't know what he was going to do with that circle, if maybe he had some alternate way of summoning a Dark Magician from hand. But I did take the risk a little bit because I wanted the deck vending because I didn't think I'd be able to OTK with this. So we're going to go and get the Zombie at the Solitaire. Going to go ahead and send the White Prince from deck to boost his level and get 2 more sends. Then we use White Prince's effect to put them back and I bring out a King of the Skull Servants. Now we're going to activate the White Mare's effect to discard it in order to special summon back our Lady in White. So now our Skull Servant will be unaffected by the Magician's Circle. And then we are going to go and discard the White Princess for a little bit more attack points. We're just going to attack over, attack directly, end our turn, and we currently have a 2000 attacking the Skull Servants that is protected by the Lady in White. Our opponent's going to go ahead and drop the Red Eyes Fusion, make himself the Dragon of Red Eyes, so that is his negate. Then he's going to set a few. He finally has access to the Eternal Soul, which is really good for him. The Dark Magic Burning attack is dead though, and I'm pretty sure the Magician Navigation is as well. But yeah, so he's going to go ahead and attack over the Unizombie. We'll discard our second White Princess. hoping to bait out a negate. Well, we knew it would be negated. If it didn't get negated, that'd be fine because we take less damage. But this way, we get more attack points for our King of the Skull Servant, which is what we are kind of after here. So we do get negated on the White Princess, lose the Unizombie, which is fine. Then it is our turn, so we draw, reactivate Allure of Darkness, banish the Unizombie, and then we get the Burial from the different dimension. Currently, we do have 3 cards that will be Skull Servants, so we put them all back into the grave to get big Skull Servants. Now we have double 6,000 attacks, both protected by Lady in White. And then as our battle phase, we're going to attack the Dragon. He is going to go ahead and bust out a Dark Magician. He, however, does not read Lady in White because Lady in White makes our King of the Skull Servants immune to spell trap effects, including that of Dark Magical Circle. So our boy stays on the field, and he's going to go ahead and tribute that to go ahead and grab back the Magician's Rod, which was a mistake, but then again, he did not realize that our Skull Servants would be still on the field at this point, so I suppose that's still not great because you should have read the freaking card. But yeah, so we're going to continue attacking, attack for gain. So that's pretty much the deck going off ideally. Like, that is a near perfect Skull Servant game. You have the Lady in White protecting your Skull Servant. Your Skull Servant has big numbers, can get bigger, possibly, and you have multiple on board to just attack for big damage. And against, weirdly enough, against less linear decks, it's actually a little bit more effective because a lot of those decks are built around stopping crazy combos. And generally speaking, your combos aren't that insane with this deck. It's very simple plays that your opponent will probably underestimate, and then they will not read the cards, apparently. And because of that, they will, yeah, they won't do so hot against it. But against more linear decks, it's actually hard because as big as these boys get, they strangely lose in a straight up power match. But yeah, you guys are gonna see some of that in the next replay, as well as what happens when you don't have the Lady in White. But I'll see you there. Alright, on to the second and final replay with Player. He is playing a Odd Eyes Magician thing, and we are going second again, and this is where you're going to see kind of the problem the deck has when it maybe didn't open so well. Like, pretty much right freaking now. But let's go and get into it. So our opponent will be going first, which we are fine with. We were fine until we knew it was Pendulums, because Pendulums can do insane things. We did get a little lucky, and he was not able to make Electromite before the Pendulum Summon, which is pretty good. However, he is going to make the Odd Eyes. So as anyone can tell you, this right here, this isn't a formidable board. This is not strong. However, it is strong against us because we don't have much in the way of plays because we have to worry about that one negate. That one negate just ruins our whole day, effectively. So yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it, show you do. So if we go ahead and drop the Dark Hole initially, it does destroy the Vortex, letting him get another monster from deck because, well, he brings back the Vortex, so it didn't really do anything, but, this happened because I was a dummy. I'm not gonna lie. I was a big dum-dum. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and banish the Unizombie, summoning the White Princess in order to send the White Prince and get 2 more sends, as we have done. We have to sort of pass our turn there, because if our special summon of King of the Skull Servants gets negated, not only do we not have a way to get back our banished monsters right now, our board is basically dead. So at this point, I'm just trying to set up cards in the graveyard, so when I do normal summon King of the Skull Servants, I can just attack, and be fine. But yeah, so as our opponent's turn, he's going to get the Master Cerberus for the Pendulum Summon of the Phantom Dragon, and he's going to go ahead and go into the battle phase. So we're going to go ahead and try to use the White Princess to end up taking less damage, which does not work out because it gets negated, which I guess we should have expected that. So that's our bad. Now, so our opponent's going to negate the White Princess. We're getting attacked directly, burnt by the Phantom Dragon, attacked directly by the Vortex Dragon, and at this point we do have a few Skull Servants in the graveyard. So we do have a 4K beater. So this is, it's not the worst thing ever, I guess. Now we're going to go ahead and use the White Prince. It's going to get negated. So we're going to go ahead and use the White Mare to go ahead and put monsters back for 3,000. I believe we didn't really have much of a choice there, unfortunately. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and attack the Vortex because I was scared of the negate, but then I was a dummy and forgot about Arc Pendulum Dragon again. And he's going to bring the Vortex back, bounce the King of the Skull Servants. That is our opponent's turn. And yeah, he's just going to attack into us for game after Pendulum Summoning. And there you go. So you see, this is the problem with the deck. It doesn't have an answer to non-destruction removal. Its only win con is big numbers, and its protection card is not as hard to access as I initially thought it was, but the fact that it cannot protect itself is sort of like a one-use shield. As soon as people realize what it does, and that's why the 6K to 8K beater won't die, uh, they'll handle this mighty quick and then just remove your King of the Skull Servant some way that it isn't destruction, or they'll just keep destroying it, and you'll have to get rid of all your Skull Servants to live. So, yeah, it's a fun deck if you can pull it off. It's definitely a bit of a unique take on Beatdown, I think, but overall, I feel like this deck could have been better. Maybe it was how I built it. Like, I am not going to claim to know everything about this deck. Like, I know a good bit about the core cards, but I'd hardly say I've studied it thoroughly. But I don't know. Let me know how this deck can be better, because I feel like this deck. I feel like there's a tech card that makes this deck insane, and I'm just missing it. I really feel like that. So if there is, please let me know in the comments. Uh, Let me know if there's anything you want to see, like deck-wise or whatever. I am happy to do it. And yeah, that being said, like if you liked, comment if you have something to say, and subscribe if you want some more. This has been Ronin, signing off.